Today's podcast is brought to you by Behind the Tech with Kevin Scott. Available on all major podcast platforms.
Who's Kevin Scott?
I don't know.
Just kidding.
If you're trying to use Teams this morning and it wasn't teaming, it wasn't you.
Oh, I didn't notice anything.
Yeah. Did you notice the silence or lack of anything?
Oh.
Because
No, I mean, your thing came through. What happened? What was the...
chat wasn't working.
Chat wasn't working.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I don't know.
Yeah.
We could all use a little break, you know?
Yeah.
Just take these outages as an opportunity to grab an orange and walk around the block or something, you know?
I think Microsoft should team up with Slack and they declare July 9th, Freedom Day.
Like a wellness day or something.
And they just turn it off. They just turn it off.
You don't need to know what's going on. Just relax.
This is the day that everyone's... We don't need federal holidays. We just need those communication apps turned off. Shut down Exchange for a little bit. It'll be fine.
That's something I was just reminded of. I visited my friends in Massachusetts, and they had been... Last week was April vacation, which is something the rest of the country doesn't get. April vacation is something that is only Massachusetts, I think, and maybe only parts of Massachusetts. So in the spring, they have like a week off in February and then another one off in April for some reason. Because I guess they went to
spring break.
Well, usually, most places have a single spring break, usually in March, right? So they have two. It doesn't make any sense. It never made any sense. It was just something you grow up, it's just normal because you live there. And I was like, oh, yeah, right. I completely forgot that was a thing. And then they were talking, just within 5 minutes, someone said something about Patriots Day. And I was like, Patriots Day is a fake holiday that is also only celebrated in Massachusetts. I'm like, nobody gets Patriots Day off. Like the entire state is just off. Patriots Day, for those who don't know, because meaning everybody, it occurs in the very beginning of April. It's tied to the beginning of the baseball. No, it's not tied to it, but I mean, it just happens to be around the same time as the beginning of the baseball season and also the Boston Marathon, typically. But anyway, it's just Boston or Massachusetts. I mean, they just make up holidays. There's just all kinds of stuff. It's funny. So if you want days off, you're not ready to wait for Wellness Day or whatever we're going to call it, move to Massachusetts.
Yeah, they make up holidays and make up football rules. They're pretty good about that up there.
Wow. They're pretty good at following the football rules. I think is what you meant.
I did something dangerous yesterday, Paul. Not really dangerous at all. I might write this up just for the hilarity of it. So I got Xbox Cloud Gaming working in my car.
Okay.
So you got to use some quote unquote workarounds because there's a web browser built into the car, and people are gonna be like, people are browsing the web while they're driving. No, you can't do that. You got to be in park. But
right.
It's not full screen, but you can cheat and make it full screen, and then it works really well. I mean, it's comparable to using on Wi-Fi. So
interesting. Well, now you have something to do while you're waiting for your daughter at the end of the school day or whatever little errands it is you go on.
Yeah, we're just avoiding the family.
Just sitting in the... Where's Brad?
I'm going to go work on the car. Isn't it electric?
Lights flashing in the car.
I'm going to go change the oil on my Tesla. What? Just don't worry. Just don't worry about it.
Yeah, car stuff. You wouldn't understand.
Yeah.
I'd explain it, but,
Oh, what else? There was something else that happened this morning.
So there's an Apple store I'm working on.
No. What I was referring to.
Oh, sorry.
I'm just kidding. I was interrupting to be a jerk. No, what we've all been waiting for, Viva Learning, is public.
Yes. So I'm going to say this. This is probably a little beyond what the amount of information I should supply about this, but I won't name any names. I just found it kind of comical that Microsoft PR will alert us to these kinds of stories, right? And it's sporadic when they do. So if you think about Microsoft as as a huge organization with different businesses like Windows, Office, Microsoft 365 is an all-up thing. I mean, it's all, Xbox, obviously. You get emails every day. And I don't get every email. So if they send out 20 emails that I might be interested in, I only get 15 of them. And it's random which 15. So it's kind of weird how I'm alerted to things before or after the fact, right? So that's one thing. But the PR person wrote me about this particular topic, and they said, hey, you expressed interest in this topic before. And then she pasted in a hyperlink to a story I wrote. and then said, and now we're introducing blah, blah, blah. And I was like, I love that you had to preface this with, here's the article. I know you want to write about this because you wrote about it before. And it's like, here's a link, like as if I don't know that I've written about it. You know what I mean? Like I've never seen anyone do that before. It's like, you wrote this, so you might want to write this. It was like, you're not getting a lot of traction on this story, are you?
So here's the exactly to Paul's point. Now, you would think that because I primarily write on Petri, which is an IT Pro focused website, and if you want to use Viva Learning, you'd have to go to your local IT Pro and have them enable said functionality.
That's right.
You would think that maybe they would email Brad and say, "Hey, look, we just put this
so
out."
You didn't get this one?
No, I did not. They didn't send me.
I'm so sorry. We usually forward stuff around. You know,
I know,
I didn't think you would care, or I assumed you would.
I'm not upset about it in the slightest, but you would. To Paul's point, like when you get an email, they spin the wheel, throw the dart, and if your number comes up, then you get the email. If not, then
yeah, it's very strange. It seems arbitrary. It seems random. You know, to me. So whatever. But yeah, sorry that you got burned on this huge story. I'll
hold it against you personally.
Cut to the chase and just tell you it's not very exciting.
But things that are not correctly alt-tabbing, that are on my personal agenda, are listening to Behind the Tech with Kevin Scott. There's a new episode out, which we highlighted last week, but there's also an older one with Charlie Strauss talking about bioscience research and also a little bit of sci-fi. And it's being hosted by Kevin Scott, the Chief Technology Officer over at Microsoft. You can find Behind the Tech on all the major podcast platforms, or you can find links in the description of this podcast, and you can go listen to that. You can be well fulfilled with your brain, your heart, your soul. Do something.
I don't think a day goes by where I don't watch some YouTube video where some person will point up at something and say, click it up there or do it over here or whatever it is. And it's like, guys, it's not there. I don't know why you keep pointing up. Maybe it's there on a phone or something. I don't know. Like, understand that people watch this in different ways. Like, it's just so. I find I actually yesterday, just because you just did this, it's in my head. I mean, I literally started typing a message to this effect to someone whose videos I watch fairly frequently, and then thought better of it, right? Because all of the comments for this is like a travel blog thing, and it's like, oh, you're so great, and oh, you're so cute. I love it's a nice dress you're wearing, or blah, blah, blah. It's all these complimentary things, and then there's like stodgy old guy at the bottom, like, oh, you don't have the point where stuff is, and it just came, it would just be, people would be like, just crawl back in your hole.
I'm gonna make sure your tombstone says, "Here lies Paul Thurrott." Information in the description below.
Yes. Right. In that case, it would be accurate.
I think that would be
link
fitting.
in the description below. That's good.
Before I rudely cut you off, Apple is expected to be on the receiving end of a very long court litigation thing with the EU, I should say.
Yeah. For their App Store rules, right? Yeah. So finally, this is going to be the first major action, I would say, against Apple for this, and not the last. I mean, it's going to be a lot of this, and so the next year, whatever 10, whatever it is going to be interesting because Apple did a couple little preliminary steps on their own last year, sort of seeing that this was coming, I think, and they'll probably do more, as time goes on. But yeah, it's all about the app rules and the arbitrary nature of them, and the 30% fee for what exactly, and on and on it goes. So yeah, it's the Spotify complaint, right?
How much you want to bet that we see Google, Microsoft, and probably Amazon all in the evidence for Apple saying, look, you don't need the App Store because look, if you want to use cloud gaming, Microsoft does it this way, Stadia does it this way, Luna does it this way. There's a viable path.
But they do it this way because of your terrible rules. I mean, there's a platform promise that this App Store is going to be safe and it's the place to go for apps. And, this smartphone market is so much bigger than the PC market. It has exploded in ways that, the way they do things makes some sense. It's the problem is the fees and having to go to Apple's advertising stuff. So it's a gatekeeper thing. It's the same. It would just. There are always people like, if you don't want to be on the platform, just don't make apps for it, and it's like, guys, you can't, they literally control 50% of the market here. Like, you can't just ignore it, which, is the gatekeeper aspect of it. So.
Yep. Speaking of gatekeepers, Roku is in a very now public battle with YouTube TV about their demands. So
Google, since I wrote that, I'm going to add it to the article this morning. They came up with a statement of their own where they basically denied everything and said this is really typical of Roku arguing out in public when in fact we're just negotiating and we don't really care about what people do with search and blah, blah, blah. It's like, so in this case, there appear to be two sides. I mean, we'll never know which of these two terrible companies is the more terrible. But actually, my money's on Google, I would say.
I was gonna say, if I was to place a bet, shot in the dark.
As I said that, I was like, well, actually, I feel pretty comfortable with that. Yeah. Look, everyone has this issue of using Apple TV, Brad, I know, and Apple has tried to solve this problem. Google with Android TV, or the Android with Chrome, whatever the hell it's called now, is trying to solve this problem. Amazon does this on their Fire devices. Roku does it on their devices. You have people watching a bunch of different apps. And the idea is you sit down in front of the TV and you're like, I'd like to watch, and then name some movie or TV show, whatever it is. Maybe it's on one of the services I'm already paying for, so I don't have to rent it or buy it. And you do a search, and the search results will go across all of the apps and services. The problem is some of these apps and services do not want you to do that. And in the case of like a platform like Roku, where it's all third-party, like actual apps, like Hulu is I think it's Hulu. I could be getting this backwards. I'm sorry. I think it's Hulu on Android TV. Does not want their stuff to come out onto the home screen. Like they don't want to aggregate anything. They want you to go in the app.
Oh, gotcha.
So, like one of the cool things you can do on this system is from the home screen, you can continue playing a show or movie you were already watching in whatever app, but the app has to say that's okay. So Hulu is one of those that doesn't. So you actually have to dive into the app, log into your account in my case, go find the content. It's a multi-step process. This is specifically about search results, but there's different ways you aggregate content and expose it maybe in the UI. So this is the battle. I don't know. It's impossible to know who's right. It's just possible to say that both of them are terrible.
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of people would say that about us.
Yes. There were a lot of things, but mostly they were just terrible.
Random aside, my wife and I finished For All Mankind. Season 2 came to an end. They are making a season 3. It's
great, right?
It's really good. It's really the ending of season 2. I'm not going to spoil it for anybody. Felt a little forced. It almost felt like
I haven't seen season 2 yet, so it has concluded.
Yeah, it's right? worth watching.
Watch it. No, I wanted to wait till it was over. It was done.
It's all done. Season 2 is pretty good though. I mean, if you enjoyed season 1, you're absolutely going to enjoy season 2.
I did enjoy season 1. It's a good show.
Yeah. The biggest difference in season 2 is, and it's not completely straight from season 1. Season 1 was like really intertwined with history, like the actual USSR and that whole space race. Season 2 starts to like break away from that.
Like Unstrive.
Yeah. Well, not quite. You'll see when you there's still elements of history in there, but it's further than season 1. But it's still good.
Well, the way they pushed it though in the first season, where they had rival groups from Russia and the United States like vying over space on the moon, whatever. It was already so far off of history. Like you could only imagine it's going to escalate over time. Like there'll be like occasional touchstones to historical events that are either a little off because like history has changed or familiar in some way. It's a good show.
This isn't a spoiler, but I will vent my rage about it. Like where they deviate it in one aspect is they took the space shuttle to the moon. Like you can't do that. It wasn't designed for that. Like,
but given the change, maybe
whatever. Like they flew it to the moon, and I'm sitting there going like that. It doesn't do that. Like my wife's like, it's a show. It's a TV show.
It's a show. Yes, I have this conversation all the time. My problem, the problem with being familiar with anything, we know people watch us know a lot about computers and how things work. Or I happen to work in banking for many years, so every time there's like a bank heist movie or a bank robbery movie or anything like that, I'm always like, nope, that's not how that works. It's not possible. There's all these like security controls in place with vaults and things like that, and it just kind of, it almost ruins movies. Like where you're like, nope, that's not it. Like that couldn't happen. And now you're a little checked out, because you're like, oh, this is, it's fake. It takes you out of entertainment a little bit.
A little bit. But something you should check out. Oh, come on. Why is my alt tabbing not working? There we go.
Because you're using a Surface device.
You should check out Behind the Tech with Kevin Scott on all major podcast platforms. We'll be back tomorrow.
Sorry.